Okay, we've spoken about film, we've spoken about Tim Burton and directors in general, right? So now we're going to go on to writing, right? But as we watch the film, I can't just focus on that because lots of different elements are going to come up, you know. So last week we focused on things like lighting. That's one of the cinematic things. Lighting, cinematography, okay, cinematography, which is kind of like camera work, but it's not just camera work. Cameraman just stands there with his camera. Cinematography is a way that they tell stories with the camera, which we examined a little bit last week as well. Obviously, animation is part of this film, so that could be another element, right? All of these things set a mood. We can also at some point look at music, right? I think what I'd like to focus on right now is writing. Writing is a very important way of telling a story. Can someone please close the door? I can hear the generator. Okay. But you guys are going to, for your drama exam, you are going to write on film analysis. So if I have time, I will tell you some of the questions we may ask. Okay. But let's focus on writing. We're going to focus on the 3-act structure. Okay. The 3-act structure is what most movies today use, whereas the 5-act structure tends to be what TV uses. Okay, we've touched on this a bit. So, you have Act 1, right, which has its own shape. And you'll actually realize that you've seen this before. Act 1, right? See, Act 2 is going to be the longest act, and Act 3, which is one of the shortest ones usually, right? So, normally, in the exposition means to expose. It's the beginning of something, right? We see the character in their ordinary world. Okay, remember that I said that cinema shares elements with stage, it shares elements with literature, it also has its own cinematic elements. So this is a literary aspect, right? We see the character in his ordinary world. We saw that with Victor in the beginning. What his ordinary world looks like, kind of depressing, right? Then we have the inciting incident. We got to the inciting incident, which is also in Act 1. Who remembers what it was? One complication, and then we got an inciting incident. Inciting means to start something. To start the story. What was the inciting incident in Corpse Bride? Yes, darling.
When he tried to marry her and then he married a dead woman.
He accidentally proposed to the tree, which became a corpse that he didn't realize, right? Okay, interestingly enough, the inciting incident usually happens around the 15-minute mark. Could be 17 minutes or whatever. So if we get to the inciting incident, let's stop it and see if it's around that mark, okay? Sorry, I've ruined all films for you. The story only really starts about 15 minutes in. Because in film, a page usually is equal to 1 minute of shooting, a page of writing. So it takes about 15 pages usually for us to get to the inciting incident, right? Another word for inciting incident is the call to action, right? That moment called into action. Tim, you will now go on this journey, right? So the next part is going to be the refusal of the call. I'm just going to say refusal. So try and remember this, and we'll write notes on it another time. The refusal of the call. Normally, when a character gets out of their comfort zone, they go, no, I don't want to be in this situation, right? Okay, and then we have plot point number 1, which is the acceptance of the call. They accept it, right? I'm just going to write accept. Because I'm running out of chalk. Okay, and then the story gets into motion. It's like, okay, fine, I'll go on this damn journey with you for whatever reason. Then, Act 2, right, is when they've just crossed the threshold. What is the threshold in real life? Every time you walk through a door, you cross over a threshold, right? That little line on the floor is the threshold. I'm outside the door, I cross the threshold. In vampire law, a vampire cannot cross the threshold of your house unless you invite him in, right? Have you ever seen a man carry a bride over? Yeah, whenever you get back from honeymoon, the tradition is the man picks you up as a bride and he crosses the threshold because now that represents we're now in marriage. And you're his bride, he's going to take care of you. Interesting that we're talking about Corpse Bride, right? Okay, then, basically, what happens in the second act is a series of obstacles. Sorry, I'm not writing any of this, right? Crossing the threshold. I'm just going to write cross threshold, walking over the door, right? Threshold. Does it have two? Yes, it does. Threshold. Okay. Then basically we're going to see a process of obstacles, right? Midpoint, the middle, where everything's kind of calm, and then another obstacle. Over and over again sometimes, until you get to a place where all is lost, right? You know that moment in the film where it's like, oh no, Spider-Man will never defeat whoever he's defeating. Why are you laughing? What are you thinking of? Which films are you thinking?
I'm thinking of how true that is.
Sorry?
I'm thinking of how true that is.
It's true, right? There's always a moment in the film where it's like, oh no, everything's over. All is lost, right? And after that they have the dark night of the soul. What's the dark night of the soul? You're teenagers, so maybe you have one every week. I'm joking. Of the soul. Sorry, that was a very mean thing for me to say. A dark night of the soul. What do you think it is?
That moment in time when stuff is bad and stuff.
Yes. My boyfriend just dumped me. I will never find love. I failed my English exam, so I'll never make it to matric. You know? Dark night of the soul. Or in a movie, you know, the best friend died, or the weapon was lost. Whatever. Right? Which brings...
the right one.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. And then we get to plot point 2. Did I write it down? Okay, no, plot point 1 I didn't write down. And then act 3 is what we call the denouement, the end of the whole thing, right? Or the resolution, right? So things start to get resolved. We get to the highest point in the story. I'm sure you guys know which one that is.
Yes.
Okay? Which is that? The climax. Every song, every work of art, every book you ever read has got the climax, okay? My favorite climax, obviously, as being a big Harry Potter fan, is that moment where Harry is just up against Voldemort. Right, and then, sorry, Harry Potter fans, I'm about to give a spoiler. Voldemort says, Avada Kedavra, which means, I'm going to kill you. It's the killing spell. And Harry does another spell, which is not such a powerful spell. And at that moment, we don't know who's going to win or lose. It's that moment of, we're at our highest tension, okay? Oh, if we talk about just before that, the Dark Nights of the Soul, in a romance movie, the couple breaks up, and then she's depressed and she's eating the ice cream because no one's ever going to love her. Okay? Right? And then, basically, after we've had that climax, we have the denouement. Denouement, which I think is spelled like this, I don't really remember. Okay, denouement. It's when we wrap up the story, okay? So after Cinderella, you know, the moment where Cinderella's about to put on the shoe, that's the climax. And then we have the denouement where the stepsisters or whatever probably have to go work in the kitchens as her servants. And they have the wedding and they lived happily ever after, right? Or whatever the thing is with the hero. You can give me another example of maybe a denouement or how the story wraps up in any other genre. How about the horror film when the one person, the only one who is left alive, which is not the person who was in her underwear at the beginning because she dies, okay, the one is left alive and she's killed all of the demons, wipes off her face and walks into her future or whatever. Okay, this is the general kind of default plot line. Remember I said plot is different from a storyline a little bit. A story is the actual story. Plot is where we start, where we end, and how this follows. Right? It doesn't mean every movie follows this exactly. It just means that, like, in a way, like, every single house has got a foundation. It has windows, it has doors, it has walls, right? How those walls and doors look. Thank you, helicopter. Okay, hold the word for helicopter. Okay, thank you, roll. Okay, it just means that once you know the rules, then you can break them. And in a way, almost every story does follow the structure, whether it ends up happy or sad, or whatever. Cool. Excellent. Right. Let's see. So just some questions to keep in mind. You will be asked these later in worksheets because eventually we will set an exam for you. Okay. Just some questions to keep in mind whenever learning about a film is who are the main characters in the film? In our case, we know Victor and Victoria, and Helena Bonham Carter's character, which I don't remember. When and where is the film set? Like I said, with Tim Burton, it's normally set in the Victorian period. He likes period pieces, right? What are the main plot elements? So these are plot elements that I just told you, but you need to be able to tell me, oh, this one is the inciting incident. That one is the climax. You need to be able to say that, right? Which is the most striking and exciting part of the film, right? From whose point of view is the story told? So this one's definitely told from the point of view of Victor, right? What is the theme or main message of the film? I want you to think about the symbol of the butterfly. Remember how the movie started with the butterfly? Please remember that for later. Okay. Is anyone familiar with the term metamorphosis in biology? Do you remember what it means? What is it?
To come as to go in as a
Caterpillar, yeah?
and then emerge as a butterfly.
Yes. If you think about it, every character's character arc, or every movie goes through a moment like that, right? I'm a little caterpillar, I'm so weird and weak, or I'm a bad person. Then I go through this terrible experience, just like a caterpillar turns into like just goo. And then I emerge and I come out and I'm stronger than ever, or I'm a better person. I'm a butterfly now, right? Very important image in this movie. It's more obvious in this movie than it is everywhere else, right? But every character goes through a metamorphosis. What is the mood of the film? It's Tim Burton, so the mood is going to be dark and weird and macabre, we learned that word last week, right? What are the symbols used in the film? Just trust me on this one, spoiler alert.